Kelly. Hi, Jessica. Welcome to Inspiring Playful Evolutions podcast. This is a series that I'm doing to basically bring forth some of the modalities that people can use during these crazy times. And I'm really excited to have you on today because, well, first, I've known you for over 30 years now, which is absolutely wonderful. I've slayed inner demons beside you. We've been chasing our demons side by side. And I really feel, I guess I've been inspired by your flight and how much you have, when people were awakening and kind of like going through that process of coming into their healing and realizing they had to go into their healing 5 or 6 years ago, I think it was, you were one of the people that just came into that and systematically, boom, started doing the work and did it without complaining, super dedicated. And you've done so much since then. You've really honed in on your craft and have been working that and evolving it. And I know that you have a beautiful offering to share with the world, and that you have been. And I've just seen so many people transformed by the work that you've done on a very fundamental level. People that I know near and dear to me and many others, and hearing their stories has been mind-blowing. I really believe in the work that you're doing. And I feel that there's something very powerful behind it. So maybe you can start by just sharing with us a little bit about your journey and what brought you to the work that you do. It's called Subconscious Mind Balance, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I help people balance their karmic and subconscious beliefs in the mind. So I guess I'll start where I started from. I went on a trip with a bunch of yogis and Reiki masters and life coaches, and I was a construction worker. I didn't have any kind of hopes of being a healer or doing anything like that. I just wanted to go on this journey to drop off my luggage, to get rid of the emotional baggage that I'd been carrying around with me that I didn't want to carry anymore. And this whole trip to Hawaii is where it was. I was just trying to get rid of this bag that I'd been carrying around with me all this time. And we went on this journey to the top of Mauna Kea, to this lake at the top of this mountain. And when I got up to the top of that mountain, I was going to wish for like love in my life and something for me. And at the last moment, I decided to wish to help, and she needed help. She was kidnapped, drugged, and sold. And after that, she was in and out of mental institutions and drugged and back in and out of mental institutions. And she was just in this awful cycle of just lost and abused by the system. And I wanted to find something to help her. And I didn't know what that was at the time, but I just wished for that. So fast forward, I come home and I start going on this journey. And then I find past life regression hypnotherapy. And I start watching these videos every day. I'm obsessed with these videos. I'm watching them in the morning. I'm watching them at night. I'm watching them, constantly. I just can't help but watch these videos about past life regression hypnotherapy. I'm also like activated all of a sudden because I can't seem to go to work anymore. My regular day job construction is like just driving me crazy, but I knew I couldn't really leave that world. So I decided I was going to exercise every day, meditate every day, and manifest my 3D job that I'm going to love so that I can survive in this world, which I did. So I do all that. I get into past life regression hypnotherapy, and I'm healing myself all the way through this using things like EFT, tapping, trying to find ways to release all this trauma that I've been carrying. Because my father and I was his only boy. He had 5 daughters, and he was really tough on me. And I had a really tough childhood, like so many of us, right? Like we were all battered and beaten and, you know, told, I'll give you something to cry about when we were young. And we were already crying when we were told that. So I wanted to heal that anger and all of that. So I was using all of these modalities, and I'm studying past life regression hypnotherapy. And then I find this other stuff, it's this kinesiology, which helps me to balance the way the mind is holding information. So I've just been going on this big, long journey of self-healing and trying to find answers for myself. And I got my own past life regression hypnotherapy session, and I did my own kinesiology sessions constantly. And I ended up helping with these modalities. And, you know, she spent years in therapy, and the sessions that she did with me helped her more than all of those things put together. And now is living a normal life. She is completely happy. She's you know, she's always going to be different that way, but she is so much happier. You can see the light in her eyes again. And I know that this stuff did that for her. And once I helped, I felt really like I couldn't hold this away from the rest of the world. I have to share this with the rest of the world and help whoever I can this way, because obviously it works. If it can help a girl who was gang raped and drugged and beaten get over that trauma, then it can help a lot of people, you know? So I just made it my mission to go out there, and every weekend I have a session with somebody, and people come in and they recommend somebody else once they're done because they have such a good experience. And I've been doing this for almost 5 years now, and I haven't stopped. Every single weekend almost is like clockwork. You know, somebody comes in to do a session with me, and I feel very honored to be supported by the universe this way, and to have these kinds of skills. And what I love most is that I'm not the one who's healing people. What I tell people in the beginning is that you're the one who's going to do all the work today. I'm just going to show you how to do it. Right? So I don't get to take any of that credit. It's all up to that person. And we all have this power within us. It's not just me. I'm not special. I am just like you. You're just like me. You just need these little tools and tricks to be able to overcome how your brain is holding information. So that'll get me started on how I do my sessions a little bit, okay? So when you wave this hand, this part of the brain activates. When you wave this pen, this part of the brain activates. We all know that, right? So when you're traumatized, your brain holds that information in one part of your brain. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in and figure out which way your body needs to be positioned in order for us to release that information. And in order to do that, we use muscle testing. So we're going to use your body to tell us what your subconscious mind is thinking. So your brain, you might think that you love yourself, but subconsciously your inner dialogue is completely the opposite. But if I asked you if you love yourself, you'd say yes. So your thoughts are going in the opposite direction right now. So through these balances, we can help people align those thoughts. So they're both pointing in the same direction. So when you say you love yourself unconditionally, you actually mean that. You're not saying, oh, no, you really don't. And a whole bunch of other nasty things at the same time in the quiet part of your brain, right? So what we do is we use muscle testing. So the human body can't lie. It's a kinesiology. They've proven this, right? So when I put my eyes down, we are accessing the subconscious mind. When I say a truth statement like my name is Kelly and I turn my hand over, my hand just glides over. But if I look down and I say my name is Paul, my hand, do you see it shaking there? It doesn't want to go over. I'm very sensitive to that motion now, so I can really feel it, and you can see the hesitancy. If you do it at home, you can feel it as well. Your eyes down, your hand out, turn it over and say your name. You will feel that it glides right over, and then you say a girl's name or a boy's name that's different. You'll feel that hesitancy. That's your brain saying that's not you, right? It can't be super obvious, because if it was super obvious when you were walking, you would trip over your feet. Okay, so it's just not that obvious, but if you pay attention, you can feel it. So that means we're going to use that that detection of sticky and smooth to tell us yes or no how the brain is thinking. So I'm going to get you to either repeat something, a statement in your mind, or I'm going to get you to focus on trauma, to go to the root of that trauma. And you're really going to focus on that trauma until you go to the root of it. And as we're going to put you in these seated positions. I'm going to get you to cross your ankles or your feet in one way or another, or your wrists in one way or another. And we're going to use the muscle testing to figure out which way to do that. Once we figure out how you're going to be positioned, I'm going to get you there to sit there with your eyes closed, and you're going to tell me the whole story, me and God. We're going to be listening in the quantum. You're not going to say it out loud, which is another part that I love, because I don't have to take on everything that happened to everybody, right? So you're going to say it everything in your head, and you're going to just focus on that. And I'm going to say, tell that person off. If it was your mother who hurt you, I want you to tell her everything you did to her, it did to you, and like explain to her how much it traumatized you, and really let her have it, and just let all the energy out. And then all of a sudden your brain's going to snap into alignment, and that information is going to be spread all over your brain, and you're going to just have a better understanding of that whole scenario. The whole process takes like 4 minutes.
And it integrates with the body by doing the closing postures.
Yes, at the end, at the end, we uncross and we tell the brain to go back to the original position, and we save that in that position. And then we muscle test to see if it works as well, right? We'll confirm to see that it works, and we're going to use your brain and your body to tell us what your subconscious mind is thinking, how it's holding information. You might think you've forgiven your mother or your father for what they did to you, but subconsciously you haven't. So that's the other thing I help people forgive. We use the I forgive my mother statement, I forgive my father, and I'll just get you to sit in these positions, closing your eyes, repeating that statement, I forgive my mother, I forgive my mother, inside, internally, nothing is done out loud. And then all of a sudden you feel it shift in your brain, and the information spreads through the rest of your brain, and you feel calm and relaxed, nice and light. And then you can think about what happened to you, and it's like, it doesn't faze you anymore. You're like, oh yeah, that happened. I don't need to worry about that anymore. So we use the kinesiology to move the information that's locked in the brain and spread it out through the entire brain in a whole brain state to create a new perspective of the trauma. And that helps them release it.
I found it's worked very well for forgiveness. I've done this technique with Kelly before, and it's definitely, even as being skeptical, because I've tried so many different techniques, and I'm pretty skeptical when I'm stepping into trying new ones, because I want to pay attention to all the nuances. But it works, even if you don't believe it works. There's definitely something there to it that re-hardwires the mind and the body.
We're actually changing the neural pathways of the brain as we do this. We literally change the neural pathways of the brain. People actually feel really physically tired after a few of these balances. They start yawning and because we're really unblocking these neural pathways that have been set, and they're like little short wires that cause triggers and emotional stress. So once they're released, it's like when you get a muscle released in physiotherapy, all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I feel like I just fought for my life. You have this huge physical release. And you'd only need to do this once. You don't have to keep doing it. That's what I love as well, right? And once I show you how to do it, you don't need me to do it. You just got to remember how to do it. And you can use this. I use this still every day in my life. I didn't want to come here and talk on camera, and I just did a balance, and here I am, and I am feeling calm and relaxed, and I don't feel stressed about it. And you and I were talking, and I was kind of avoiding it because I don't like to be on camera. And then I was like, oh, I'm just gonna do a balance, and here I am, right? Like it helps you hijack the brain. I tell people I'm helping you bust out of the matrix of the mind. The mind is the matrix. I really hate the idea of it's the law of attraction, because that makes you the victim. It's the law of projection. You are creating the matrix in your mind, and you're projecting it out by your emotions, thoughts, and deeds, right? So if every morning you wake up and you're reminded that something really bad happened to you when you were a kid, then that's the echoing in your holographic matrix every single freaking day, right?
Yeah, the loop. The loop that locks you in.
That's it. So I help people break through these loops. I help them find these loops and cut them out. You don't need them anymore, right? And it's super quick and easy. It's super personal, and it's all inside the mind. So you don't have to say anything private to me, which I love as well. Like, I don't want to hear that the bad things that happen to you, but you need to go there when you're in this session in order to release it.
Yeah, it's definitely a personal journey.
Yeah, exactly. So I hold space for you while you're doing that. I help you get in there, but you're the one who has to do all that work. And then when you're done, we muscle test. So some people, like, they come in and they fake it, and we muscle test, and it gives them away. And I'm like, you didn't do it. Go back. So there is like, your body's going to tell me whether you cheated or not. Right? Like, if you went deep enough.
Yeah, and there's a lot of, like, I've done different muscle testing, different techniques for muscle testing, and I find that this one works the best because the fingers, I mean, that just doesn't work for me at all. Moving the body, there's, but the arm one, I don't know if it's because it's connected to the core muscles, but there's something more powerful that it's more difficult to cheat on it.
Yeah, I agree with that statement 100%. I've done all kinds of different self muscle testing, and I find this one with the hand really just, if you're not feeling it in your wrist, you're feeling it in your arm or in your forearm or underneath your bicep in here. And, it really just, everybody can do it once they get that feeling. So, and that's what I love too. Like, even the biggest skeptics, the toughest clients I've had, all of them ended up being able to do it. So this works on everybody, no matter how much you think it doesn't work on you. This is actually science. It's kinesiology. The human body can't lie. Your muscles are going to tell you how you are going to respond to that information. So we're going to go through your life. I'm going to start with your parents. I'm going to say, what was your relationship like with your mother? What was it like with your father? Okay, let's balance for that. And then we go through time. And every time something traumatic happened to you, we're going to do balances around that, right? And we're going to just go through and figure out everybody who hurt you. We're going to forgive them. We're going to see if you need to do a traumatic stress relief about it, and then we're going to forgive them, or if we just need to forgive them. And every time we're going to ask the mind what it is that we need to do. I don't want you to have to do stuff that you don't need to do. You just need to do the stuff that is holding you back. And we're going to ask your mind, and your mind's going to tell us. What I love about this, it's not me giving anybody advice. It's not me telling you, oh, you have this and that. You're going to do it all for yourself in this session.
Yeah, and I agree. It has to come from the self, and that's something that I've been critical of when interacting with different therapists. Therapists that don't bring you back into yourself to find your own truth and to do the work from within. It sort of tends to take you, it sidetracks you, because again, there's this victim perpetrator dynamic that plays out. Whereas when the therapist or the person doing the work brings you back into yourself, there's like an empowerment that comes from within, and no one can take that away from you. And it's your truth because it's coming from within yourself, and it's not being imposed from the outside.
And nobody's coming to save you but you, right? You're here to save yourself. I'm not here to save you. Right? Who's going to save you if you don't save yourself? Right? Like, that's not my job. I'm not here to help you. I'm here to help you save yourself. I'm here to train warriors, not to freaking become your warrior. Right? You have to be the warrior because you are the center of your universe. You are the God creator of your reality. Right? And if you can't save yourself, then
yeah, this is definitely a collective movement of, everyone coming into their power in terms of a global shift that's taking place. So I feel that this work is pivotal in just giving people the tools, because they leave after doing a session with you, they leave with the tools to go back and use it at any point in time.
That's it. I tell them it's like a magic wand. I use this stuff every single day. Like, we are constantly having to change the way our mind is affected by certain things. Like, if I don't feel focused at work, for example, I will do a balance and I'll say, I feel energized and focused on work today. And that'll be my statement that I repeat. And I'll take 3 minutes. And then all of a sudden I'm like in the zone and my brain is hyper focused on what I'm doing. And I can get what I need to get done without my brain, without anxiety, without stress. You know, I work in a very stressful environment. I work in construction at a very high level on multiple jobs on mega buildings, and for some reason, I am having a very good experience out there. It's very easy for me out there. Everything always works out for me when I'm out there. It wasn't always like this before I started what I was doing. I would butt heads with people a lot. I would run up against them because my projection into reality, I had a lot of inner turmoil. So it was just reflecting back at me, this inner turmoil. Now I'm a master of my thoughts and my reality. So everything when I'm interacting with people out there is for my benefit because I know that I'm in alignment there. I'm projecting it out there and I'm not projecting garbage out there anymore like I used to. You know? So I know that I can, and if there is somebody, like I have the occasional person that I butt heads with out there because it is a very stressful environment. It's all about schedules and deadlines and all these things. And I will just do a balance around that person. And then I come back and then all of a sudden me and that guy are working together and we're best friends.
And this sort of bleeds into, I've been studying synchronicity a lot for many years. And one of the stories that I love to tell people about something that I experienced with you was there was a moment when Kelly and I were walking together with a group of people, and we're outside, and it was a beautiful starry night. And Kelly had already kind of honed in on wanting to, master this as a craft. And in that moment, she pointed up at the sky and made a proclamation to have a falling star shoot right there in that moment, in that place in the sky. And boom, falling star, a beautiful falling star, bright, very clear, exactly in the place where she pointed. So that story I love to tell because I feel that as you've continued to really evolve with your skills, you're encapsulating that moment in time. And there was something very powerful that happened when I witnessed that occurring that allowed me to understand this interplay that we have with the universe and how we are creating things and how things are arising based on our inner experience and the feeling and the place where it's coming from. So yeah, this just kind of ties in and to where you are now, and watching you do this work with people and watching the transformation has been incredibly beautiful and inspiring. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's just the first half of the session. Now we're going to get into the second half of the session. So after we do about 2 to 3 hours of balancing the mind, forgiving people, going through all your traumas and cleaning them out and making you feel light and just, released from all of those things, you're going to feel pretty tired. It's going to be the perfect time for us to do some hypnotherapy. And I feel like the hypnotherapy is just as powerful as the kinesiology side of things. So when we go into hypnotherapy, so we're going to deal with the subconscious mind beliefs, and then we're going to go and deal with the karmic subconscious beliefs. These other dialogues that we've created for ourselves about the life that we're destined to live. So I ask everybody before the session to write out about 15 questions about for 15 questions for God is what I usually say. What would you ask God if you could ask him anything? What do you want to know? If you could ask anybody anything, what would those questions be? Like, what was that light in my room when I was a kid? Or, was it an alien? Or, things you wouldn't get the opportunity to have answered by just anybody. And then also any advice you want to give yourself. Like, what advice, if you're looking for advice, the best person to give you advice is you, not anybody else. And that's what this is going to help facilitate. So we go into hypnosis. You've got your 15 questions. And you're going to tell a past life story. They're always different. They're always interesting and exciting. Sometimes they're in this life, sometimes they're in a past life. You're never going to tell me anything that you're ashamed of that happened to you in this
Is
life.
it
So don't be
it
afraid.
specifically a past life story, or is the person just going into a story? How does that?
It's, they call it past life. That's the intention. We usually want to get to the past life, but it doesn't always happen to be a past life. So whatever the higher self feels like you need to learn today, that's really what's going to come through for everybody. Everybody's going to have their own unique experiences. I've done them where they've been in this present life and they've had to talk to family members. I've done it where they're in this present life and we had to talk to their home because they were living separate from their home and their home was missing them. And we had to do all these balances for the home itself and her so that she could let it go, so it could have a family live inside of it, because it was being Airbnb'd and it doesn't like that. So many things have energy and consciousnesses. We'll talk about that later. But so every session is different. So we're going to hypnotize you and you're going to have an experience. Sometimes you're a ball of light. Sometimes you're a being who lives underwater. Sometimes you're Genghis Khan's bodyguard. These are all sessions that I've had with people, right? I never know what people are going to be. Sometimes you're a priest, sometimes you're a fish being with gills who lives underwater and protects stones, right? I never know. It depends on you and your consciousness and your own imagination. Because if you have a limited imagination, you're going to have a harder time seeing more magical things. But if you're a magical celestial being, you're more likely to have these more, exciting experiences. So it depends on the person entirely. So we hypnotize you. We see this past life. There's always something there that the higher self wants to talk about. Then once the past life is done and we've seen what you need to see, we travel to the place where we speak to the higher self. And then once we get there, we start doing a body scan. So the body scan is my favorite part of the whole session, because this is where we find things that are connected to our bodies that are just outside of us, and they have their own consciousness. And when you get to talk to them, it's always very exciting for me. And I don't usually tell people this before they come into a session because I haven't wanted to influence their behavior. So when we do the body scan, I ask them to look for any kind of discoloration, any kind of itchiness, pain, static, anything that they sense. So we start at the top of the head and we scan through, and all of a sudden I get stopped. Oh, there's something behind my left eye. And I'm like, okay. So I say, I'd like to speak to that thing that's behind so-and-so's eye. You must come up through time and space and speak to me now. Hello. And then guess what happens? That thing actually speaks back inside that person's mind.
So is it an aspect of themselves? Do you think, what is your perspective on that? Is it still like just, it doesn't matter, it's an unknown, or do you feel like it's an aspect of their repressed personality?
So when trauma happens, I think we create these little characters who hold that trauma guard and refresh it and stoke the fire. Mm-hmm. That's what I think happens. And they have their own consciousness. It's not always you, right? They are a separate thing. So I asked that thing, what are you doing there behind the left eye? And it'll say something like, oh, I just hang out here. You don't need to worry about me. And I'm like, well, how do you eat? What do you live off? And then it says, oh, I just live off her anger. I just squeeze this eye sometimes and it bugs her. And then she gets all anxiety and nervous, and that's what I eat. And I was like, well, you can't stay there. It's time for you to go. So intuitively, I found out that I had to call in the Archangels. At first, actually, this happened and I was just sending these entities off into no man's land. And then I found out that they were coming back. So I had to redo the sessions with people. And then I called in the Archangels and asked them to take them back to God, because I found out that it's a universal law now that is happening. All souls are going to be given their shot at ascension. right? So you can't go and eat somebody's light anymore. That's over. They have to find their way back to God, and they can either be recycled by the original creator of their soul, or they can be transformed into their own sovereign being of light, but they can't stay attached to people anymore. That's just the rules of the universe now. So the archangels are here to help. So we call in the archangels, and you, the person who is hypnotized, will talk with the archangels and get this being to get out.
I have a question for you. So if someone doesn't believe in archangels, for example, they don't identify with those symbols because of their religious or cultural beliefs, what, I guess there's other labels, or are you working with people individually depending on, like, you know, what their conditioning is with language and that sort of thing?
I have not yet. I solely work with the archangels right now, but I don't belong to any kind of religion. So I'm not using the Christian archangels, or, you know, I'm using the energy of the archangels. They don't want to be attached to those things anymore, because those things have been corrupted by man. And that's not what they resonate with.
So I have a
to help
question
you.
for you. Like, what do the archangels represent to you?
Oh, they're here to help us. They're here guiding us. They're here to support us. They are, honestly, and they can't help us unless we ask. So you need to ask them. But literally, I'm always saying, oh, the angels are working overtime for me right now. Look at this. Look at this, you know, because they do that, because I am always asking them. They're always helping me, and I talk to them and they talk to me, and, you know, so I have a good relationship with the angels. Everything always works out for me. I'm the luckiest girl in the world, you know. It just, once you start harnessing the power of the angels, you kind of like all falls together for you, and you got this little team of, oh, excuse me, a giant team of these celestial beings helping you every day. Like, how can you go wrong? You know, and when bad things happen, I say thank you for this opportunity. I don't want to see bad things, and then I just select a new matrix.
I guess for me, it's I visualize it as a higher force, you know, a higher force that is there supporting and the mystery, the unknown, right? But this force that is still unknown to us, but that holds tremendous power for creating. And yeah, so it's still an interesting question, because I study many different languages around angels and, you know, these different deities that people use. So so that's definitely something to look into. But I get a feeling for the power behind what you're saying, and using that power as a supportive source.
I think that the reason why I'm using them like that is because that's their job right now, is to get things back to God that don't want to ascend. So that's why they're helping, right? That's what they help with. They don't really help with you in the session. It's up to your free will to get rid of that entity. And that's what I tell people. Sometimes the entities don't want to leave, and the person in hypnosis is arguing with that entity. And the entity is saying, no, no, I'm just going to stay. And you have to force it out. And I tell that person, you are the one it's holding on to. You have to tell it to. Right?
And you're not you know, there's something also that when I was doing the sessions with you previously, that it's you're loving that thing. You're not neglecting, and you're not denying it. It's more of, I see you, I'm accepting you, and I'm going to love you to bits into this light. Right.
Well,
So
I'm going to help you transmute, get to where you need to go, because you're just in a holding pattern, holding on to that person. That thing is in a holding pattern. It's eating somebody else's light. It has no other food of its own. Right. And it never did. So it doesn't know where to go or what to do. So in this reality, right, it's probably another dimensional reality being that's siphoning through this reality. We don't want to get too much into that, but
that's the interesting part.
I know, I don't want to freak people out too much. That's part 2 of the interview. But like these things, they think that we're at first, you know, they were scared because they thought I was just going to send them off into no man's land. But once they realized that we're going to give them the opportunity to become their own light, they're super grateful. They're happy to go. And some of them are tired and just want to be recycled. right? We're not just sending them off into the void, which is what's scary for them. So we're helping you get rid of this, but we're also helping these things that are connected to you get back to God and become whatever it is that they need to do. Right. And these things, like, you think that this is not real, but I've had so many messages after these sessions of people who had like shoulder pain and they had an entity in there and now they don't have that shoulder pain. Like I had, when I got my hypnotherapy session done by another woman, she didn't remove any of these entities. She did a body scan. And when she got to my heart, she said, you know, how's the heart? And I heard something say, she's fine. And I didn't realize what was happening because it was all new to me, you know? And then once I realized what had happened, I taught you, Jessica, how to hypnotize me to get rid of these entities because I knew there was one in there. And I knew there was one in my foot. And I knew there was a couple more in me because I'd been removing them from all these people. So I just taught you how to do it. And you helped me get rid of those. And now I don't have those aches and pains in those areas. And I literally had you do it to me because I know that I can see it working on other people. And I was jealous. It's like, I want this for me too, right?
Mhm.
So once we remove all the entities from people's bodies and they have these arguments with these parts of themselves that don't belong anymore, whether it be made up in their mind or whether it come from another lifetime, because sometimes these things tell me that they came in many lifetimes ago. That means it's a karmic thing that you brought in from your mother's mother. Like Bruce Lipton talks about it. When a mother has a baby in the womb, you're like a Russian nesting egg because your eggs are already inside of you. Her eggs are inside of her, and her eggs are inside of her, and her eggs are inside of her. It's literally a Russian nesting egg of genetic DNA trauma passing down through the genes, right? Like it's in the genes. So, you know, some of these entities come in with that DNA and you can't get rid of it, you know, just going to see a therapist because it's just not, it's in another dimensional reality. You have to contact it there. It's not going to get rid of any other way. Right. A lot of people have anxiety and it's these freaking entities just like pulling their cords on the inside and they're like, oh, that's so good. Oh, I love it when you stress out. It's my favorite. Oh my God, anxiety, more of that, please. You know, and like TV, everything around us is gearing us towards that so that we're like literally feeding all of these negative energies all the time. And
yeah, and they could just be thought forms that are overgrown, habits, a whole bunch of things. I think the the important shift that's taking place is, you know, people being able to step over that line and go into the imagination, because in traditional like psychology, you know, the conventional stuff, there's not as much freedom, right, to move into those spaces and to interact on that level. And I think that's where the true power is, right? Because there's it's not disconnected, it's becoming part of it and owning every part of your world, and then being able to, you know, change things, move things around, get rid of this. I'm gonna, you know, oh, I found this little part of myself that is really encouraging and soft and gentle, and I'm going to bring that forward. And so the possibilities are endless, but it's that step that, you know, in society there's still kind of this, ooh, this is woo-woo space. And then when people actually go through it, I've heard so many times, I've been doing work with my psychiatrist or for years and years, and nothing budged. And then I do 1 or 2 sessions where I'm like, just the creativity is, you know, has a place to express itself, and the imagination and all of these different unknowns. And what comes forth is so transformational. So I really hope that people have an opportunity to try out different modalities, especially if they're dealing, you know, with really difficult situations, because I've seen that impact is so great. And take the chance to to give that gift to themselves. So I'm wondering, is there anything else that you would like to add to this work that you do in terms of what it is? And
so So once we get rid of the entities and we've done the body scan, we'll go through and we'll start talking to your higher self. And we'll ask the higher self, why did you show so-and-so that past life? Why did you show them that reality this time? And they will tell you why. And it'll be because, you know, there's something there for you to learn. And once you acknowledge trauma in this way, you just move on, right? So I had this girl who came in and she's been raped 5 times in this life. And she wanted to know why. And in her hypnosis session, she was a priest, and it was during the Salem witch time. He raped a woman, impregnated her, and she was married to a local man in the village, and he accused her of being a witch, and they ended up burning her at the stake. So that guy is now her in this life being raped. 5 times she's been raped in this life. Now, since that's happened, it's been like, I think 4 or 5 years, and she feels like that's never going to happen to her. She's moved on from that now.
So she uncovered that herself through coming into contact with her higher self and receiving that information from herself?
Yes. Yes. So, you know, energy cannot be destroyed. So if we do have this karmic loop that we're living in, we don't know what it is, you can't get over it until you figure it out. And you're just going to go on to the next life with it, apparently. So that's our job. We come here to figure this stuff out. We're coming here to solve the puzzle that is our own lives, you know? So once we do all that and we talk to the higher self, and the higher self's going to answer your 15 questions. And the higher self's going to say things like, she needs to love herself more, or he needs to focus on being more present, or stop focusing on the death of this person. And that's another thing I help people do, is really when people have passed, help them really kind of get into an acceptance for the passing of that individual. And they usually come in through these hypnosis sessions, and they're able to, you know, move through. It's actually forced her boyfriend to do a session with me for that exact same thing. His brother had died very young, and you know, her boyfriend used to get very upset whenever he would think about his brother, and because he died of a drug overdose accidentally, and he was very angry about that. And whenever he would think about that, he would get angry. Now, when her boyfriend thinks about that, he wants to make his brother proud, right? His brother came through and was like, stop being such a dink, you know, be there for your brother, your other brother, and be there for your girlfriend and your mom. And, you know, I'm here with you in spirit. And he saw that, and it brought him back to his brother. And now his brother's with him. He rides in the truck with him every day, you know? So I love that. It just really transforms people, and it helps them see that. And all of this happens in their own mind too. It's not me telling them this stuff. They're going to tell me this stuff, right? They told me this stuff. I didn't tell them any of this stuff. Yeah. So then once we're done all of that, and we, you know, the higher self gives you all the advice. We've cleaned out your vessel. You've dealt all the karmic. We ask the higher self if there's anything we need to balance on or anything else. It's probably been about 4 to 6 hours now by the time this is all said and done. And
a session is typically 3 to 4 hours, typically for people.
3 to 6 hours, depending on the person and how much trauma. And that's just because, like, I find that older ladies have a lot more trauma, so they're the really long sessions, you know. And the younger kids, like, they're quick and easy, right? Because they don't have as much trauma to get over,
and not as much resistance built up over time, I can imagine.
Well, I think it's just like, if you're a mother who's had a baby mama and you got kids, and, you know, you've had a hard life, you're going to have a lot more traumas, right? If you're young and you're just starting out, you're not going to have as many traumas, right? Like, it's just kind of like the way that life is hard for a lot of people. And it's like, you know, it's one nonstop freaking trauma after another for some people. And, you know, you come into this world, like, that's the other thing we ask in the hypnosis part, like, why is the person experiencing this kind of reality? Like, why is it so hard? And they always say, this person chose this. They wanted to learn and get over this. And once they do, their soul's going to evolve in a way that is going to benefit them beyond anything they could imagine. And I really feel like that's what everybody's here to do, is to get over these problems and evolve and become these better versions of ourselves. And I know that personally because I did it myself. I was literally beaten as a child. My father and I fought like cats and dogs. And now my dad and I are best friends and we have a beautiful relationship. And I am so grateful that he was able to change for me and evolve for me. But it also was a lot of work for both of us. And, you know, it's a big thing. And the same with my mom. I have a beautiful relationship with my mom. And you know, you don't ascend by yourself. That's all I got to say to people too. Once you're done healing, you got to turn around and put your hand out and start helping people behind you, because you know, there's who's going to be in heaven if it's just you. Right? You got to turn around and help those people behind you. And so that's why I spend all my Sundays giving free sessions to anybody who will take them, and helping whoever I can as my service work. I keep my my job that I love, you know, my 3D job that I love, because I also feel like I'm in service that way as well. You know, having me around in construction, all these men, it really kind of like brings this beautiful calming energy, but I also ramp things up too a lot and I get things moving. So
that's great. So you offer this, seeing as you, you know, as you're able to do it, this has been your service offering for a couple of years now, I believe.
Yeah, it's gonna be 5 years, 4.5 now, almost 5 years.
4.5 years. Wow.
Yes.
I know that, I mean, I've sent tons of people to you, and I know that you've been busy like crazy. And yeah, I just think that this is wonderful, especially for people that don't have the budget, let's say, but they really need the help and they're really working through trauma. And so anyone who's watching this, I invite you to contact Kelly. I'll leave the information for you to get a hold of her and to do this work with her. And she's at service for now. So take advantage of it. And yeah, and I wish anybody luck that's moving through this. I know that you're in good hands with Kelly.
Yeah, nobody's coming to save you but you, right? So you got to do the work. You got to find out what's going to work for you. And this isn't even a session with me, isn't the end, right? You're going to find other things that you're going to need, or you're going to try to help others too. Like, that's really what it's all about in the end, is getting out there and like being the best version of you that you can be. Definitely.
Well, thank you so much, Kelly. Are there any words that you would like to end this interview with, or how can people get a hold of you? I guess that would be a good one.
You could just email me at chasekell, CHASEKELL @gmail.com. I haven't bothered to put up a website or anything yet, because I just keep getting clients without having to do all that. And I feel like, you know, that is just fluff. When I need to, I'll do it. But until then, you can just find me at this email. And, you know, I find that word of mouth has been my way of getting around. Everybody who does a session with me has a great experience and then recommends somebody else. And I encourage them to, because you're helping them heal themselves as well, right?
And we all have to play our part in doing this work together collectively as we move through all these different challenges and have no choice but to face our stuff.
Yeah, and I'm here to train warriors. You know, I'm an angelic warrior, and I am here to train warriors. You know, I've had people come back to me to try to do second sessions, and I'm like, I already taught you how to do this. You need to do this for yourself, and I'll help them through it again. But then I'm like, this is up to you now, right? So I'm not here to save you.
Yeah,
only you can save you.
Yeah, it's the only way it works from my experience anyway. It's the only way it works, that where there's really true advancement that can take place through true evolution is when we do it for ourselves. Yeah. Thank you so much. So much.
Bye, Jessica, and happy birthday. I love you so much, my beautiful friend.
I love you too. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Bye.